My name is Pernilla Helmersson, and welcome to tonight's Hangout, where we're going to talk about entities, talk to the entities. And I'm excited to talk to Therese Stoa tonight about this. She's actually, I think, the first talk to the entities facilitator we have in Stockholm, and maybe even in all of Sweden. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to introduce to you Therese Stoa. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for getting on the Google Hangout with me. It wasn't easy, but we got here.
Yes, thank God for the tools. That was actually what got us on. And I'm not even sure if I told you my name. My name is Pernilla Helmersson, and I'm an Access Consciousness Facilitator. And both me and Therese have actually played with entities, both in our personal lives, both with each other, and in our businesses with sessions and classes. And now we're going to learn a little bit more about talk to the entities too. And Therese, maybe a good place to start is to also tell everybody what an entity is, so everyone is aware of what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah, it's a funny name for, I never really used that word until I got in contact with the talk to the entities and the access tools around it. So an entity is basically anything that has an identifiable energy. So like a book, a building, a house, obviously any person with or without the body, even like people that die, they are still an entity, but they don't have a physical body anymore. Animals are entities. Yeah, like anything that has a unique identifiable energy is what we call an entity. So that's, you can play with, you can use the tools for all of it. So actually the talk to the entities tools is like the tools, information, and techniques to be able to train yourself and to get more versed in the language of energy. Because obviously these entities doesn't speak in words with the voice that we can hear, like I hear you now, Pernilla. So that's some of what the talk to the entities tools start to open up and allow you to explore.
Yay, yummy. And I'm curious because I know a little bit, or actually a lot, about your story with entities and how you, even when you were little, could perceive them. And could you talk a little bit, maybe a little bit about your story and different ways you can perceive entities?
Yeah, well, I can try.
Yeah.
My story with entities. Wow. I guess most kids have really developed capacities with entities. Like they have what the grown-ups call imaginary friends. They talk to flowers or trees or dolls or whatever that is around them. And then until they get old enough where they start to shut that off, because they buy into this whole idea that it's just make-believe and fantasy. I think isn't that like, yeah, most kids have that talent and ability and capacities to really have a rich reality that includes all entities, or at least a lot of entities. And as did I remember when I was a kid, I was talking to everything, especially in nature. That's one of my most like vivid memories of when I was a kid, was like talking to everything out in nature, like talking to mountains, to rocks, to trees, to animals, obviously, insects and birds and whatever else, and talking to spirits or ghosts. And then I remember very specifically when I shut that awareness of the spirit world, and in particular like human spirits or entities mostly, and not only that, like I shut that off very dynamically. And I don't even know exactly how old I was, probably around 4 or 5, something like that. We were I was with my mom, and we were staying at this old farm in the mountain, like a tiny mountain village in Norway. like remote. I think there are probably like 40 inhabitants in the whole village or something. And this farm was even outside. So this was like an old farm. And we were staying there, and I was, playing with all the entities, human and animals, and having a good time during daytime. And then it got time for me to go to bed. And I had my bedroom, I had my own bedroom upstairs, which had like a huge painting, several paintings actually, of people from way back. And there was a lot of entity activity in the house. So I went to bed, and then my mom closed the door, like to allow a little complete. And then all these entities started crowding the room, and I started to freak out because it became too much for me to kind of deal with. I didn't dare to go to sleep. So I started to freak out, and then I wanted to, well, first I started crying out for my mom, who was downstairs. It was like, the house was big, but not like huge, so she would be able to hear me, but she didn't hear me. And I would cry out for her, and then she didn't respond. So I like gathered the courage to go out of my bed, because I had this thing where I had to like tuck my blanket all around me, that it was like airtight, so that none of the entities could come up under the blanket during night when I was sleeping. And I still do sometimes, actually. So I gathered the courage to run across the room, to like run out of the door, to get out of the room. And then the door was jammed shut. I couldn't open it, and I would hang from the doorknob, and I would like pull it, but it wouldn't open. And it was a door that opened like inwards, but it wouldn't open. It was stuck, and it had been open. So then obviously I freaked out even more. And then eventually my mom came and opened the door and was like, okay, there's nothing here, don't worry. We can look under the bed. And she would look under the bed, and she would be like, yeah, and let the door open. And so at that time, I definitely decided that, okay, this is too much for me to handle. I'm not going to be aware of all of this. So I shut it down. So for a long time, I would be aware of them, but not really interact or go into and look at what it was that I was aware of. Which made it like more, I wouldn't say more invasive, but it made me the effect of all the entities around me, instead of me being able to communicate and play with them and have interactions with them as I would with any people that were hanging around me. So yeah, that was a little bit about the the beginning. And then I met the Access consciousness tools and the classes, and I took some of the classes and came in contact with Shannon O'Hara, who's the creator of the Talk to the Entities specialty class. And then I was just pulled on these first classes. I did not want to do these first classes, and I knew that there was something there for me. And also I have, like, most of my family are dead, so they're really hanging around. My mom died when I was very young, so she's been hanging around, and I knew that from I was 12 years old when she died. So she had been hanging around for all that time and being very, you know this, Pernilla, because we have had some sessions where we've been talking to her, and she was very persistent in getting in contact with me and to push me into opening up more of a conscious relationship with her. She was not happy at all with me not wanting to interact with her on a more dynamic level. So there it was. Then I was in those classes. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't even want to be there at first, I think. And then I started exploring the tools, using the tools, and all the stuff that I decided when I was young and thought I couldn't handle it was kind of shifted. And it wasn't this scary, too much to handle topic anymore. It became like pragmatic with the tools. So yeah, and then I went on from there, and now I'm facilitating and playing with these tools and using them every day, and it creates so much more ease.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And it's so interesting that you even remembered what situation you turned it off or turned it down. That's really interesting to hear all of that. And I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate to that. You have some similar story to where you were perceiving something that you might not been able to see, but you were perceiving something in different ways, and then maybe something happened that made you turn it off. And like Therese was talking about, like when we try to shut it off, sometimes it gets even more invasive, like you were saying. So Therese, do you want to share with us like maybe a tool or two? What do you do? Or is there a tool that is popping that you would like to share to make it maybe easier, or maybe do something? Oh, there's so many things so many directions we can go right now. And one, I think, big thing is what you were talking about, the fear around entities.
Yeah, and the Talk to the Entities classes are really designed to allow you to really see what's beyond the fear, because it's not like entities are not this big, scary, evil, horrible world that you need to avoid. Entities are all around us all the time, and when we die, we're going to become entities. And would we like to have someone actually communicate with us and assist us if we get stuck, or if we would like to contribute to them, or would like to say something? So yes, there are all kinds of entities, as there are all kinds of people, and the tools just make it easier to deal with and get clarity on what kind of entity are you dealing with, what kind of entities are around you. And what I love about it is that they empower you to know that there's no entity that can do anything to you. They're not more powerful than you. So the mantra of Access is like empowering people to know that they know, which is also brought in with the Talk to the Entity classes, because it's an Access consciousness class. So yeah, I would really just like to, what if there's no entity that is more powerful than you are? And like, what would be possible if you would be able, so for instance, okay, this is a good one. There's a tool in Access consciousness that is called Who Does This Belong To? So in Access, we say, ask for every thought, feeling, and emotion, ask who does this belong to? Because we're all like psychic radio antennas picking up every thought, feeling, and emotion around. And surprise, surprise, that includes from the entities. Even though they don't have bodies anymore, they very much do have their reality that they had when they died. It's not like blah, blah, blah. So that's a whole like conversation that we go through more in class, and look at what actually happens when people die, and what is their reality like, and what are they capable of and not capable of doing by themselves, and what can we assist them with. That's like the whole area that we're covering in class. I don't know if we even have time to go into a lot of that now. But when you use the Who Does This Belong To, for instance, how many, like, there are so many people who are suffering from mental illness, for instance. If you have, I used to think I was a little bipolar. And I used to, because I would have this period where I would be like overwhelmingly depressed and sad, and I had no idea where it came from. It was just like boom, and it was there. And I could be like happy, happy, happy. And then I went, and it was especially at nighttime, evening and nighttime, I would go to bed and I would just be so depressed. I would like cry for a whole night. This is like several years ago, but I could cry all night, and I had no idea like where did this depression come from, because I didn't have these tools, so I didn't know to ask who does this belong to. And would I have been given that tool back then, I would have noticed that, oh, this like sadness that just suddenly pops into your universe, or like suddenly comes out of nowhere, it's not you. So what I became aware of as I started to open up more of my capacities with entities was how much sadness and how much emotion we can perceive that is actually not even from other people only, but also from entities. So it has helped me hugely to to kind of sort out all the stuff that doesn't belong to me. And Shannon once, she said in a recent intro call that she did lately, a Halloween special, she posed the question of what if more than 97% of mental illness is actually entity awareness? And I wonder how much of the stuff that we're struggling with and trying to overcome that could be sorted out or dealt with the tools of Talk to the Entity, and also from Access Consciousness, obviously. But like, there's so much going on with the entities, and that we can realize. For instance, I've had so many instances where I will be talking to people or thinking of someone, and then I would have these like almost obsessive thoughts of like, oh, nobody likes me, or they don't like me, or nobody wants to hang around, or like they don't understand me. Like, how many have that feeling like nobody understands me? And then when I got these tools from Talk to the Entity, I was like, wait a minute. Are there entities who feel like nobody wants to hang out with them, nobody wants to talk to them, nobody understands them? Okay, so it lightened up my whole world whenever I remembered to ask that question. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's not me, that's entities. Okay, guys, I hear you, I see you. And then I could like investigate that more if I wanted to, or at least acknowledge that they were there, and then ask them to come back another time, or do something that worked for me with that, instead of like going into my own like spiral of going down the rabbit hole.
Oh, thank you for that. That's really cool. Yeah, with the mental illness and everything. And yeah, there's just so much you can shift and change with these tools. I keep getting amazed every day. And just the acknowledgement that it's not, might not even be mine, just because I perceive it in my body or I perceive it in my head. That's just like mind blowing, and it can really change your life. It certainly have with mine and yours, I know. And you were talking about this for a long time now, but a long time ago. But you were talking about a little bit how they can also be a contribution, not only something to talk to or have around you, but also something that can contribute to you in your life and that you can contribute to. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, well, one obvious thing is, imagine, like, if you have a loved one or somebody who passed away and is still hanging around, a lot of them just want to like say goodbye or contribute to you or help you out if you would like them to. And then there's also like, there are all kinds of entities, and all people have like a group of entities that are supporting them. And yet most of us have not had the tools or the information of how to actually connect with them and to receive that contribution that they're trying to be. So that's actually more in the, so like in the Talk to the Entity curriculum, there's like the intro and beginners class where you get introduced to the tools, and you get we call them the beginning tools, but really they're like the most powerful, effective tools, and I use them every day still, even though I've taken a lot of these classes. But that's where you get like the tools and the techniques, very practical, very easy to use. You just have to remember to, oh, wait a minute, entities, yes, the tools, you know. So you get that in the intro and beginners class. And then after intros and beginners class, that's where we also like take this whole world of entities and communicating with entities and spirits and ghosts and everything else that is in that realm, out of being the scary, like separate universe that we don't want anything to do with, and start to look at, wait a minute, is it really that scary? Could we actually have some more ease and clarity of what is going on? So that's what you get in the intro and beginners. And then if you want to continue, Shannon O'Hara has classes that are intermediate and advanced classes, and there we will go even more into the aspects of receiving from entities and creating different with the entities. So in the intro and beginners class, it's a lot about clearing and actually getting rid of all the barriers that we put up against entities and the unawareness that we have learned to surround ourselves with when it comes to the entity world.
Yeah, and it can also be a little confusing. I've noticed that, like you were talking about, you can have them around you and you can be aware of them, even you might not even be cognitively aware of them, so that you might even actually hear different things in your head, like, oh, go there, do this or something, and you think that it's all yours. And it's so cool what you're talking about, that in the classes we actually get more tools to be aware of, is this me or something else, and can we clear it, or what do we do with it? And that's a really cool thing, because I've noticed a lot of people actually have this confusion going on, and I've seen people using the tools and how it changed, and they become more of them, and they become more alive, and they become more aware of what they are like and what they would like to choose.
Yes.
Which is really cool side effect of the tools.
I agree. It's awesome. Yeah, and actually the more like the more aware I have become of entities, the more like interacting with certain people that has like a lot of entities hoarding around them, but they themselves choose to be totally unaware of it. It becomes like this, like, not a barrier, but this like veil that you like. So it helps to have these tools, because then you can actually interact with other people's entities as well. So the tools that you get in the Talk to the Entities classes are not just for your own use, although you will probably use them on yourself first and foremost, but you can also use them to handle situations in life. I mean, all these tools are designed to make your life easier and make your life work better. So in dealing with other people who are not aware of the entities around, perhaps, you can use these tools silently, maybe, to make a situation work, or to reach another person easier than you would if you didn't have these tools, and so many other things. And like I said, like, entities are not only dead people, but there are also like all these, there's nature spirits, there's animals who are entities, there are trees, and all elements, that everything that's alive is an entity. And also like all these business is an entity, a book, a song, like all these things that are all around us as an energy. And the more skilled you get in the language of energy, the more you can communicate with them and actually use that to have an easier life and create a life that works for you. How cool is that? With everything, not just with dead people.
Exactly. You can actually communicate with everything, and imagine all the contribution you can ask for and be contributed to and contribute with. And it's just pretty amazing. And now, right now, I can perceive some more excitement around all of this. And I had the kind of the similar experience like Therese. I was just all of a sudden on Shannon's telecall, and it was like the entities actually had pulled me in. So imagine how many entities that are around you that are just waiting to contribute to you and waiting to be able to talk to you more.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, if you just like ask, what would you, can't even speak. If you just ask, what would your life be like if you set out to train and to explore and to master the language of energy, and to decipher all that has been encoded and ciphered around you? Would it make your life easier? What would your life be like if you had total ease with understanding and communicating and changing and creating with all energies around you?
Exactly, and to get more awareness of what you're talking about right now in Access, with one of the tools are whatever makes you feel light and expansive, that is the truth. And if you feel heavy and contracted, it's a lie. So maybe that can contribute with you when you're asking the questions that Therese is talking about.
Right. Yeah. And the heavy and light tool is like brilliant. I use that every day, and like the more you use it, it becomes more of how you function after a while. Like you don't really have to pose the question of is this light or heavy, you just instantly know. But like just when I started to use that light and heavy tool in the beginning, it just, wow, it rocked my world. It changed everything and made choice so much easier.
I know, haven't you always wanted a tool that actually helps you choose? And the amazing thing about it too is you don't have to actually be in your head. You just go with the energy, and you go with your knowing, and you go what's light. And yeah, it really helps with choosing.
It does. Yeah, so I would just like to maybe leave people with, obviously this hangout is to like introduce the tools of talk to the entities and be a little bit like, hey, this is what we mean when we say entities, and there are these classes that are held around the world actually.
You're actually having one this weekend already in Stockholm that I'm really excited about because I'm going to be a part of it.
Yes.
So we actually started in Stockholm on Friday night, and that's the intro where you don't have to have any prerequisites. You can just show up and take that workshop intro and get presented with a bunch of tools. And then you can also choose to go on and do all day Saturday and all day Sunday, or at least 10 to 5 anyways, and do the whole thing. And that's the beginner's class that we've been talking about this half an hour.
Right. So yeah, and the intro class, it's a 2-hour class, and it's really a great way if you're curious or if you're wondering if this stuff is something for you or you just want to check it out, because it's open for everybody. You don't have to know anything about access consciousness or entities, or you don't have to know anything about anything actually to come. And you might, and you're welcome to come anyway. And you can bring your friends, or you could check it out alone, or do whatever you feel like, and then just get a sense of, is this something for you, or is it speaking to you in any way? Would it make your life easier? So I would really encourage you to seek down an intro. We're having one in Stockholm, like you said, this Friday. And also there are like intro and beginners classes held around the world with my wonderful, crazy colleagues of the Talk to the Entities facilitators. And if you go onto the Talk to the Entities website, it's talktotheentities.com. There's a whole list there of classes being held around the world if you're curious about this. So I would really encourage you to check it out. And what do you know?
That is really amazing. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, don't be sorry. Like, yeah, I would just like, what have you always known that you have forgotten that you know? And what if the tools of talking to entities and being with entities is the information that you should have been given when you were a kid and when you were born? And how does it get any better than that? Come play.
Yay, come and play with us in Stockholm. And take care, everybody. And like you can see there, Therese have her web page up if you want to check out her other classes or sessions or whatever. She's amazing with animals too. So I would just want to leave you to that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And just let us know if you have any questions at all.
And thank you, Pernilla. Like, yeah, you probably could mention that you're also a facilitator who has classes and a web page. What's your web page, Pernilla?
Is that some? My web page is down and hacked, but I'm on the Access web page, and my name is Pernilla Helmersson. So yes, you're welcome to check it out.
Yeah, so people can search for you on the Access web page if they want to check out what you have going on. I know you have some juicy stuff coming up. So
yes, you can check it out, and we're also on Facebook, of course.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pernilla.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.